Hello, second grade Smarties, and welcome to Wit and Wisdom Module 2, Lesson 22. We are going to be finishing our time with the story of Johnny Appleseed by Aliki, but stay tuned for our next lesson. We will be introducing another version of Johnny Appleseed's story. So today, our pizza bite question, or our content question, this is the question we want to answer today, is what is the lesson of the story of Johnny Appleseed by Aliki? So we are trying to figure out what is the lesson that we can keep in our hearts, in our minds from the story of Johnny Appleseed. So we have spent 2 days with Johnny Appleseed, or John Chapman, and we have learned some really amazing details about this man's life. But I want you to think, was Johnny Appleseed a typical pioneer, or was he kind of unusual? What do you think? Was he unusual, or is he like the other pioneers that we've learned about? He's pretty unusual, right? What makes him an unusual pioneer? What makes him different from the other pioneers? Tell me in the puzzle. So we learned some very interesting details about Johnny Appleseed and how he was different from other pioneers. We learned that he preferred to travel by foot, and in the story, we learned that he traveled barefoot with a large sack carrying apple seeds with his cooking pan on his head. We also learned that he didn't carry a gun. He did not believe in using guns like the other pioneers did. We also learned that he made friends with animals, and in this story, he made friends with bear cubs and a mama bear. We learned that he tried his best to make peace between pioneers and the Indians. That was something that really had not happened before. We also learned that Johnny Appleseed always came back to see his friends that traveled through the American West. So Johnny Appleseed was a very unique person, and the character that we learn about in this story was very unique. And there are things that we can learn about Johnny Appleseed that we can use in our lives. There are things about his character or character traits that we can use every day. So what we are going to do is we are going to look at some sections from the story, and we are going to try to figure out, what can we learn from Johnny Appleseed in this story? What can we learn to do from those sections in the book? So let's get started with the first one. But before we do that, so when we read The Legend of the Bluebonnet, remember, a legend is a story that gives us history of something, but in a magical way. So when we read The Legend of the Bluebonnet, we did the same thing that we are going to do today. We looked at our main character, she who is alone. And what was the lesson that we learned from she who is alone? What did we learn about her and about her people? What did she do in that story? Tell me in the puzzle. We learn that sometimes you have to make sacrifices to help those you love. In the story, she sacrificed her warrior doll to save her people, to help her people. And the Comanche people, the Comanche tribe, learned that she loved her people greatly. So we are going to be doing the same thing with Johnny Appleseed. We're going to be looking at examples from the text, and we're going to try to figure out what is the main lesson we can learn from this character. All right, so here is a section. As he walked, John planted seeds. He gave a small bagful to everyone he saw. Soon everyone knew him. Everyone who knew him called him Johnny Appleseed. Sometimes Johnny stopped for many weeks helping the pioneers. They cleared the land, they built homes, they planted rows and rows of apple trees. When they were finished, Johnny walked on to help others, but he always came back to see his friends. So from these 2 pages, what can we learn about Johnny Appleseed's character? What do we learn about him in this section? Tell me in the puzzle. We learn that he was helpful and that he tried to do good things for the pioneers. He gave them apple seeds, he helped them build their homes, but he always came back to see them after he continued on his journey. He would come back. So we learn that he helps people and he helps his friends. Everyone loved Johnny Appleseed, especially the children. When Johnny rested from his planting, the children sat around him, listening to all his adventures. So, in this section of the story, we learned that Johnny Appleseed loves to talk with children. He loves to tell about his stories. Johnny Appleseed walked alone. He slept out of doors, in the woods, or by the river. He met wolves and foxes, birds, and deer. They were all his friends. So, what do we learn about Johnny Appleseed on this page? What is something that we can learn about Johnny and his relationship with animals? What is something that we can keep in our hearts and our minds about Johnny and the animals? Tell me in the puzzle. So, something that I learned from Johnny Appleseed is that he takes care of nature. He takes care of animals. He's friends with animals. He does not hurt them. He does not harm them in any way. He makes friends with them. One day, as Johnny was eating lunch, he heard a noise and 3 little bear cubs ran from behind a tree. When the mother bear came and saw them playing together, she sat and watched. She knew Johnny Appleseed would not harm her young. So, again, on this page, we see another example of how Johnny Appleseed takes care of plants, nature, and animals. The animals are not scared of him because he is kind and friendly to them. Are you catching a trend about Johnny Appleseed? He is a very good. Let's keep going. Let's see if we can fill in that blank. Johnny met many Indians on the way. He was kind to them and gave them seeds and herbs, which they used as medicine. Although the Indians were not friendly to any white men who chased them from their homes, Johnny was their friend. So, what is something that we learn about Johnny Appleseed on this page? What is a lesson we learn from him? How does he act towards the Indians? Tell me in the puzzle. The story tells us that Johnny is kind and he helps them. He gave them seeds and herbs to use as medicine. And most Indians were scared of white men, right? They were scared of the pioneers and settlers because they pushed them out of their homes. But did Johnny do that? No, he was not a typical pioneer. He was kind and he was friendly to everyone he met. Johnny did not like people to fight. He tried to make peace between the settlers and the Indians, for he believed that all men should live together as brothers. So, what does Johnny try to do between the pioneers and the Indians? What does he try to do? Tell me in the puzzle. He tries to make peace between 2 groups. He tries to make them peaceful, to become kind and friendly. Are you guys noticing about something about Johnny Appleseed? I'm starting to notice something. So, we're going to go back to that in a second. So, those are some examples of Johnny Appleseed's character, what is in his heart. What is something that we learn about Johnny Appleseed's heart? What does he always do for others? He's always kind, right? He's always kind and helpful, and he is friends with everyone. All of those pages that we just looked at are examples of a lesson. You should be kind and generous. So all of those key details had one thing in common. They showed different ways that Johnny Appleseed was kind and generous. He was a good friend. So I want you to look at these examples. Okay, so these are examples that we just looked at together. And I want you to give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down if it supports this lesson. Johnny gave the pioneers apple seeds. Does that support you should be kind and generous? Thumbs up. Johnny was kind to the Indians. Does that support our lesson? Yeah. Johnny gave the Indians seeds and herbs. Is that an example of the lesson? Yes, that's an example of Johnny being generous. Johnny gave the animals food. Yes, Johnny was kind to the animals. He didn't hurt the bear cubs, and he was generous by giving the animals food. So we learn in the story that Johnny Appleseed was kind and generous. So think about who he met on his journey. He met Indians, he met pioneers, and he met animals. So think about his life and how he was kind and generous to people. What did the Indians do for Johnny Appleseed at the end of the story? What did the Indians do for Johnny Appleseed? Tell me in the puzzle. Remember at the end of the story, the winter was still there and Johnny Appleseed was worried about his apple trees. But one day he fell and became ill. And what did the Indians do? They took care of him and nursed him back to health. So think about Johnny Appleseed. He showed kindness to the Indians, and in return, those friends showed kindness back. They were kind and generous in taking care of their friend. So another lesson we could learn is friends help friends, right? So when you are kind to others, when you are kind to someone, that person's going to be kind back to you almost all the time. Sometimes that doesn't happen. And that sometimes means that that person needs to work on their heart and mind, right? But when we are kind to others, when we are generous, that opens up lots of opportunities for us. But those friends might help us in the future too. So I want you to think, what is an overall big lesson that you can keep in your heart and your mind from the story of Johnny Appleseed? Tell me in the ed puzzle. So when we think about that lesson that you just told me in the ed puzzle, whatever lesson you learn, we can apply those in our lives. So from the legend of the blue bonnet, we learn that sometimes you have to make sacrifices to help others. In the story of Johnny Appleseed, we learned that you help your friends with kindness and generosity. So I want you to think about the lesson of kindness and generosity. How can you be kind and generous in your life? How can you be kind and generous? Tell me in the ed puzzle, how can you be kind or generous? So a way that I can be kind or generous is, especially as a teacher, I can help other students in the school grow and learn. So something that I can do is ask teachers if they need help with some friends, or I can ask friends in the hallway if they need help with something, or I could ask my principal if he needs help with a classroom in the building. That is a way I can be generous with my time and show kindness. I can't wait to see what you told me is a way that you could be kind or generous. All right, so we know with every book that we read, we like to show what we have learned from the story or the book that we have read with our words. So yesterday I told you that you guys are going to be creating an online book. So we will be answering this question with our online book. What is the lesson of the story of Johnny Appleseed? So we're going to use a digital book creator to make a book answering that question. So what we are going to do is tomorrow, you are going to be watching a video on how to create an online book. And then after you have time to explore, learning all the ropes around creating an online book, we are going to answer this question. But we will be doing that very soon. So we are going to be answering this question. What is the lesson of the story of Johnny Appleseed? That's what we've been working on for this lesson today. So check in tomorrow for a video lesson on how to make that online book. All right. And as always, with every lesson, we're going to finish with a deep dive. So, we have been talking about irregular past tense verbs. Now, remember, past tense verbs means that I've done an action in the past. And we have talked about how most past tense verbs end in that suffix ed. But some past tense verbs have irregular spellings. That means that past tense verbs are spelled differently than the present tense verb. So I want us to look at this sentence, okay? It says, Johnny takes an apple from his sack and eats it. Notice that I underlined these action words, these verbs. I want to change those action verbs to past tense verbs. Johnny takes an apple from his sack and eats it. What word would I use to say take in the past? What would be the past tense spelling for that? It would be took, right? Johnny took an apple from his sack, and what would be the past tense for eat? It's ate. So Johnny took an apple from his sack and ate it. When you look at the verbs, the present tense or the base word is take. The past tense is took. It is spelled differently or is an irregular past tense verb. It's spelled differently than the base verb, than the base word. So let's look at some example sentences and see if we can fix some past tense verbs. Are you ready? Let's do it. All right, so we are going to practice changing verbs to irregular past tense verbs. So all of these verbs that are underlined, they're going to have a different spelling from its base word. Are you ready? All right, here we go. In their covered wagon, the pioneers make a long and dangerous journey. What would I need to change? How would I change make to the past tense? How would I change that? In their covered wagons, the pioneers make a long and dangerous journey. I need to switch make to the past tense. In the Ed puzzle, I want you to tell me, what do you think is the past tense verb for make? Tell me in the Ed puzzle. So the past tense for make is made. The pioneers made a long and dangerous journey. It's not maked, it's made. So give me a thumbs up if that's what you put in the Ed puzzle. All right, let's go to the next one. Everyone knows Johnny Appleseed. So our action word, our verb is knows. What is the past tense for know? Tell me in the Ed puzzle. So the past tense for know is, let's see if we got it, knew. Everyone knew Johnny Appleseed. The past for know, that means if you know something, not know, it's if you know or understand something. Everyone knew Johnny Appleseed. Okay, now our next one, the pioneers build homes. What would be the past tense for build? Tell me in the puzzle. So the past tense for build is built. The pioneers built homes. So we change that D in build to a T, built. The pioneers built homes. And our last one, Johnny always comes to see his friend. So comes would be the present tense, but I want to know, what is the past tense for come? Tell me in the puzzle. So Johnny always came to see his friends. Came is the past for come. All right, Smarties, that is going to be it for, let's see, Wit and Wisdom Module 2, Lesson 22. Remember, when you are thinking about how you can be kind and generous, think about Johnny Appleseed and all the ways that he showed kindness and generosity to others. Keep that growth mindset, Smarties. Good learners do hard things, and I will see you very soon with another lesson. Happy learning, Smarties.